Good afternoon, Abraham. I have a number of questions. They're all in the same category. I'd like to know more about the non-physical.
It's fun.
Yeah. You're talking with us who are in a time and space reality, whereas you're not in a time and space reality.
Although we are when we talk to you. In other words, when we focus where you are, we are experiencing the same time that you experience.
Right.
We have less resistance as we focus, and so there's much more exposure to much more deliciousness within your time frame reality than any of you allow. But we're aware of it.
And at other times you're in timelessness.
Well, let's talk about this in a way that you can get your thoughts around it. What everyone has is now. Because wherever your consciousness is focused, that's the experience that you're having. The difference between Abraham, from our non-physical perspective, and you from your physical perspective, is that we do not measure the relationship between this now time-space and everything that has come before and everything that will come after it in the way that you do. In other words, you use it to beat yourself up, while we use it to help us focus in our now. The easiest way to understand time is not to try. And here's what we mean by that. When you say, well, there must be simultaneous time, I've heard about that from other non-physical beings, and we say, there is this powerful now, everything is vibrating now, and the time is measured by the perceiver or interpreter of the now. Now, this is getting a little boring because it's hard to get your thoughts around, so let us bring it into an easier place. When you think about the contrast that you are evaluating in your now, and you think about the new thought that is born out of it, and you think about that new thought now being the summoning of more source energy, and that source energy now taking thought beyond where it has been before. In other words, when you have a new thought, that thought summons source energy and the universe expands a little bit. So the experience has become more. Before the contrast and before the birthing and before the summoning and before the answering of source energy, the universe was smaller or less. So rather than thinking in terms of time, think in terms of expansion. And when you think in terms of expansion, then you will understand time in the way we understand it. We never think about how long anything takes or about the proximity like that. We are just exploring the expansion. And so our now is always powerful in our anticipation of what is becoming.
That brings more questions to the expansion. Now, the time and expansion, to us it is time. The evolvement of time, which things happen from here to there. To you, it's a degree of expansion from here to there.
Well, it's just an easier way to look at it. When people talk about simultaneous time, sometimes people will say, well, from non-physical, I could express myself in the 21st century, or I could express myself in the 16th century. I could be anywhere because everything's really all happening at the same time. And we say, chew on that thought for a little bit, and then think about how every exposure in every experience causes a birthing of a new desire, which causes the summoning of more non-physical energy, which causes an expansion of the universe. And when you think in terms of the new, more expansion as compared to the earlier, less expansion, it gives you a whole new way of looking at time. We do not believe that anyone can really experience what they are calling simultaneous time because the universe is expanding so rapidly. And talking about simultaneous time is like trying to hold the universe still, and it will not hold still. But you are right. In the non-physical realm, we are not measuring it through clocks and calendars. We are measuring it through expansion, which is almost the same thing as saying time is continuing to march on. Discussion about simultaneous time is so elusive and detrimental to your wanting to understand an expanding universe that we would never make reference to it. Because the fact is, there is more right now than there just was. And how are you going to account for that? In other words, there is more than there was, which means we have moved somewhere. We have moved somehow. We have become more. And isn't it logical to explain that through a passing of time?
Right.
Or something. Passing of something.
Yeah, right. Abraham is a combination or a group of spiritual...
Gang, we prefer the title gang.
Gangs,
yes.
Okay. or clumps of something. Clumps of spirit. As I remember through my 6 years of listening to tapes, this is a group who was with common interests, and is there various groups who have different interests in the non-physical?
Endless, yes.
Yeah, endless.
But remember that just as any vibration can be activated within you, source energy can join a lot of different groups of interest. In other words, source energy has great eagerness and interest and delight in focusing wherever you lead thought. Did you hear that? Focusing wherever you, on the leading edge, lead thought.
And who does the focusing?
You do.
Okay. All right. Now let's take the people in a monastery in the physical world. They have certain interests in developing their consciousness into a higher consciousness, spiritual consciousness. When they go into the non-physical, do they again group together because of their interests that they had here and group together to advance their consciousness in the non-physical?
It is really not that way. In fact, it's almost the opposite of that. It's more like their interest from non-physical is what caused them to find each other in the physical and group together. It is a very common thing for those like you who have come forth into this physical environment to be teacher, to gravitate with others who have had same intent as you made the decision to come forth.
And the same thing when you go into the non-physical.
From the non-physical perspective, that's who you are. In other words, you were dominantly that before you came forth.
Okay, so that's why you're still together.
Yes.
Do family groups then go into the non-physical?
Sometimes, in other words,
group there, for instance.
Your physical family sometimes is your vibrational family, sometimes not. In fairness, we must say to you that you are all family.
Yes, I realize that. Now, for instance, the family that I went into when I arrived in non-physical,
they were a perfect vibrational match to the intentions that you held. They were the vibrational utopia for the launching place that you had identified. Let's take a segment of refreshment. We'll begin with you when we return.
Thank you.
Because there is this thing called time.
Okay.
We are complete. And are you refreshed? Yes. Good. Bring us back around to where you are.
Well, let's get into a detail. When I came in, this family that I chose and what you said was a perfect family, now I'm the only one left. My mother, my father, my 3 brothers are in the non-physical. So I was just going to go and extend that conversation into what relation now is there between that family there and me here. Is there any connection between us, or is there anything that they are helping me or whatever?
Well, first we would like to say to you that in the vibrational sense of a family, you are far from the last one left. But we understand what you mean because you're talking about your physical family. Mm-hmm. But the clump of energy that came forth into the physical was expressed in many physical beings all at the same time, and so there are many non-physical counterparts expressed in the physical here and now. The answer to your question, is there any relationship between you, who seem to be the only remaining physically focused member of your family, and those who have made their transition into the non-physical, is absolutely yes. In other words, there is no reason for any barrier to prevent any communication or contact. But there's even a bigger part of that we want to give you, and that is that all of those resources that they now have rejoined have always been available to you at all times. And the contact is this: everything that you desire is being answered by source energy and helped along by those like these that you are talking about. You have this non-physical cheering section that is doing more than cheering. They're actually orchestrating on your behalf. When we talk about this contrast that gives birth to a desire and that rocket of desire that goes forth, all of this non-physical energy, especially those that are associated with you and that are aware of you, are actually anticipating and identifying and pre-paving and pre-planning and expecting the results that you are asking for. In other words, that's part of that current that you are feeling. But if you are not in vibrational sync with them, you would not know that there is any benefit being offered. But that's what we meant when we said there's a huge non-physical staff aware of you, working with you, hoping with you, hoping not in the sense that it might not be, but hoping in the sense that they are looking forward to you becoming a vibrational match to what you're asking for. It's a huge non-physical cheering section. And as our friend asked earlier, are there fairies or gnomes or elves or angels, or in other words, and we say yes, 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 yes. And that is the relationship that you have with that. It can be as narrow and specific or as broad and general as you choose for it to be. There is no separation between that which is physical and non-physical other than in the mind of the physical being.
Now, I think you have said that even in the re-emergence, that we re-emerge as a group too. If, for instance, our previous family, whether it is with the ones that I came in with or the families that we have now with our children and grandchildren. Is that how it is a lot of times?
Well, you know, as you've been listening to us over time, you may have noticed that we are de-emphasizing this idea of family and group, because it is something that sometimes answers what the physical human is looking for, but everything is defined by vibration, which is more defined by interest or intent than anything else. And so we would like you to, rather than thinking in terms of the family as you think of your close family here in the physical setting, we would like you instead to think of source energy as this powerful stream or group, if it pleases you, of pure positive energy with lots of variety of interests and intentions relative to many things, but all of it being pure positive energy. And not try too hard to get your thoughts around this group concept. And we know why you do it. You do it because it's the way you approach life through your physical setting. But it's hard to translate the specifics of that back into non-physical without distortion.
Okay, is there a period when we go into the non-physical of assimilation and review and so on?
Well, you can focus anywhere that you want. Assimilation, yes, in the sense that when you reemerge into the non-physical, everything that you have ever been, everything that you are, is fully known. But your inner being does not traipse back through the details of that, because your inner being is now the culmination of all of that. And most of the traipsing back through would sort of be a misalignment of energy.
Be part of the physical, which we've given up.
Which you have happily left behind.
Right.
Yes.
One last concept. During the Columbine incident, which would be similar to the present one, you said that when those who went in the non-physical at that time, that there was no difference between the person, the killer or the killee, that they celebrated upon death together. I'd like to ask you, it's kind of like in a senior play, when they have finished their play, they go off and have a party and they celebrate, and it doesn't matter who was the hero and who was the villain in the play, they still celebrate equally. Is that kind of it? Just like Shakespeare said that the world is a stage and we're just actors upon that stage. Is that how we look at it at that time after the play is finished?
It is, and the villain is usually the most disconnected. And in the reemergence where there is no disconnection, then you know the rest. Mm-hmm. Hard thing for physical beings to hear, because you were so counting on those bad ones being punished.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you very much, Abraham.
Indeed. Indeed.